Sean, I have a question. Do you think this is perhaps the best game of all time?
No.
So
uh,
what do you think it's missing? Do you have any criticism?
um, so it's really hard to kind of like position what this game is missing in terms of like the best game of all time. Um, for me, the best game of all time, and I've said this before, was Star Trek: Birth of the Federation. It's because it's an
Wait, whoa,
intellectual
whoa, whoa! No, last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, you said it was Grand Tactician: The Civil War.
best Civil War game ever made.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but best game ever would be Star Trek: Birth of the Federation. Mainly because I love that IP. I love strategy games. That's what I wanted. I want a strategic Star Trek game, and it provided me that. Whether it's has the best mechanics or that can be arguable, but that one is near and dear to my heart. Um, Now, in regards to this game, if I had to kind of like make suggestions on what they could do. Um, it is difficult because I would have to say one thing that I would suggest is something that they shouldn't do is add a strategic layer to this game. So, like for example, if you're invading Syria, right, have something similar to what like Grand Tactician's doing, so you can have like a movable front line, and you can have units that you have from the beginning of the war to the end of the war, and you don't have to like do an economy system or a tax system, but more on a grand scale where you can kind of fight individual battles, and when two armies collide or two units collide, it'll go into a tactical simulator. But that's something I would like, but it's something I don't think they should do. I think they should continue focusing on just making the best tactical simulator, and focus on more conflicts. Like one thing I would like them to do is focus on maybe the what is that war that was fought between the British Army and Argentina, the Falkland Island War.
Yeah, Falkland Island.
Yeah, that's what I would like.
Although that's gonna be a tough one because most of the Falkland Island fighting was aerial.
Naval and air,
Yeah,
yeah.
naval. So it's two areas that this doesn't. The combat mission engine is really built for boots on the ground and for vehicles. I would say that the thing it excels at the most, in my opinion, is when you have combined arms, when you have both infantry and vehicles in play, and that to me that's where this game fires on all cylinders and hits all the right spots. It's just perfect when you have to maneuver with your infantry to spot for your tanks, but then because if you move your tanks forward, they just get hit by AT. But then when you move your infantry forward, they're taking tons of fire because they're not as potent of a fighting force as a freaking tank. Yeah, this chess match is where the game really shines. But I have a question for you, John. Are you saying that the only thing wrong with the game is something that they haven't done yet, that they might do?
That they shouldn't do?
Yeah, the thing that they shouldn't do. Just so, are you saying because they haven't done this that they just need to keep doing that? It already is the perfect game.
I think it's my go-to tactical game. Like there's some games that I really love, like Armored Brigade. That's an incredible game. But if I had to kind of like choose something that where I feel like I'm a company commander or a battalion commander or regimental commander, and get be able to kind of like zoom all the way in and actually see soldier, like have the camera angle over a soldier's shoulder, doing CQB. This is the game because you can zoom all the way out and kind of move platoons around. It's very, very immersive. It's probably the most immersive tactical game that I've played. Mainly because when you play a scenario, I just jumped in the scenario. I didn't play the campaign, right? You have two platoons, and you're like, normally when you play scenario, you lose some guys. You're like, I don't care. It's a scenario. I'm just having fun. While I'm playing the scenario, I'm actually like jumping from squad to squad, hoping that I didn't lose anybody. Like when I lose a staff sergeant that's running a squad leader, right? And I see that he's a casualty. I'm like, shit, I just lost a staff sergeant. And when a lieutenant, second lieutenant gets hit, right? I'm like, shit, I lost to the platoon commander. And it actually like gets, you actually feel that. You actually like, shit, I'm losing too many soldiers on my squads and my company. I don't usually feel that with other games. Like Armored Brigade, it's a great game. Don't get me wrong. I really love that game. But when I lose like a tank, I'm like, oh, yeah, I lost a tank. I'll move this other tank up, right? And I'll lose that tank. And I'm like, all right, well, let me move some infantry up. I don't feel that loss like I do in this game.
I think what we should. It's really hard to do, and I'm rating schemes are always kind of funny anyway. But it'd be kind of interesting to see what are different, like, evaluate a game on a score of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 even. It'd be interesting to see what the three of us came up with for different games. And I don't really like that just because it's better to talk about a game. Scoring systems are so subjective, but I don't know.
I do think one thing that Combat Mission could benefit from is a operational level campaign. Like, I think it would be cool. I don't want to run the war. I think that would be way beyond the scope of this. But I think it would be cool to have like a regiment with, I don't know, 3-4 battalions in it, and then have like an operational map and an objective, and then you have to get, you've got to launch an offensive. You've got to take this part of this map, right? Because a regiment, at least in the World War II games, a regiment is not existing on its own, right? It's part of a much bigger conflict. But if you've got a regiment on the front of the line and it's got, go take this town, you're part of this bigger operation, which I think is kind of what Graviteam does. But like, have an actual operational element where I've got to manage my logistics, my supplies, my reinforcements, as I've got like a week or 2 weeks to do this objective. And then, I deploy my battalions and I take casualties and things like that, and then fight the battles in the tactical mode. Like, I think that would be cool. They kind of had that in the original Combat Mission games with operations, where you would have battles that would be like multiple days and multiple like 20 or 30 turn segments, and you'd have to deal with limited resupply, limited reinforcements or replacements between battles. But you never had like a top level view of the strategic map that you were moving on. It was always just sort of like the one tactical battlefield, and the edges of the map moved a little bit. But like, I guess what I'm looking for is, put me in charge of a regiment. Let me command 3 or 4 battalions, because these are really battalion-sized battles for the most part, at least the larger ones. And then, let me manage some of the stuff that a regimental commander would have to manage. And I think that would be the perfect type of campaign to add to a game like this, where you don't try and make it something that it's not, but you do give it that element of persistence and that element of, it's more than just a tactical battle. The tactical battle exists in a wider context. Because the problem with the campaign today is there's no dynamism. There's scripted scenarios. If you succeed, you move on to the next mission. And the only difference is your ability to continue to be successful based on the casualties that you take.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Although, so my one, like the thing I would be nervous about is the battles are already, to me, they just take a long time. I mean, it's real time, right? When you see 1 hour and 40 minutes in the bottom right on the timer, like to complete the mission, one of the things which I, just because we play video games and there's so much time dilation in almost every game, I saw 1 hour and 40 minutes. I was like, yeah, but I'll just, this will take like 30 minutes, right? No, it takes over an hour. You can finish early, but it'd probably take you 1 hour, 20 minutes or so. And by the way, I didn't miss anything. There's no fast forward button, right?
Not that I saw.
Yeah, I don't think that there is. So the game, I mean, this is a plus and a minus. We already mentioned it. It's a benefit that it is so immersive, and you see a lot of the waiting around, waiting for troops, But there's this is a mixed bag, right? Because if you're short on time, this game is just not gonna cut it, right? I'm not sure if you can even save in the middle of a scenario or not.
You can. Yeah, you can.
Okay, that's good.
But to that point, I could see why that would be a negative in certain circumstances. Definitely, I think the counter is this is a simulator, right? It's not an RTS. It's not a Companies of Hero. It's not that kind of more mainstream, click-festy kind of really fast-paced combat action. It's trying to be a game that models what conflict is actually like, what tactical battles are actually like, and to that point, you're right. It takes time. It's not fast. And that's, I think the game is fine with it. From a design perspective, I think it is not failing to meet its intent with that. But to your point, the lack of a fast forward button, it probably could use one. And it's not the kind of game you sit down and play for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Probably you probably need at least 45 minutes to an hour if you're gonna commit to it.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say that this should be anything like. I mean, I can actually hear the waves, the cries of, first of all, the developers, Steve, everyone who likes this game. No, this should not be changed into anything like a click fest. It benefits from like a thoughtful approach. I'm not even insisting on something like a fast forward button. What I'm trying to say is, if you made the game any bigger in scope, the battles would bog down even more. Like the hardest ones to do are the maps with the most amount of units, obviously. Then you have a lot of orders to issue. You have two ways of dealing with that. You can either pause, or it does turn into a click fest, where if you're trying to play it out actually in real time, you have so many orders to issue to different people. Or the game also, we should say, does not completely capture order delay. The ways you can get order delay in there is if you do the 60-second turns, the like turn-based WeGo system. But for the real-time system, the orders are pretty much instantaneous. I didn't really notice any order delay. Maybe
You're right. I should have pointed that out. The order delays are in the turn-based. In real time, it's pretty much instantaneous. There are some exceptions, like if you can get traffic jams with like units or buildings trying to move down the same path, and if you do, they won't move through each other. They can't exist in the same spot like in some games. So like vehicles will pause or will stop or do things like that and wait for the road to clear.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's little things where it's not like the perfect simulator too, but I would be happy to see a fast forward button, but I'm more just, maybe it's just a cautionary note. If it probably won't happen, right? I doubt that they're going to write a fast forward button into their game just because we talked about it here, and probably people have already mentioned it. I'm sure they're smart people. They've already thought about it. It's a war game, and you have to come in with a lot of patience, because real war games like this, they do take a lot of patience. And I was already talking about how I had a hard time with this scenario where you're playing as the head-to-head Syrians versus the Germans. It's a difficult game because if you don't play it slowly, and even if you do play it slowly, you kind of have to learn the system that the game is emphasizing, which I think in this case is a lot of cover and smoke and diligent movement. So if that happens to match up perfectly with the real world, which I think it's very close. It does a better job than any other game I don't want to say that too cavalierly or too casually, but I think this is the best game as far as like accurately depicting how movement has to be slow. And
yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's one of those games that combat mission's been around for 20 years. They're doing something right. And I'm so glad that they're on Steam now. And bringing the whole catalog. I really love this partnership that they're doing with Slytherin. I think having Slytherin do the marketing, which they're incredible at, is a perfect marriage right there. And really looking forward to seeing what they come up with next in terms of next conflicts. One thing that I was surprised at, during the interview, and we did it in the after show, maybe I'll put it in the interview, is they were seriously considering bringing Combat Mission to the iPad. And I remember they did make Combat Mission Touch, and I did buy it. I remember this was probably 5-10 years ago. And yeah, I was just kind of stunned. And they said they're still considering iPad, but since the market has changed so much, it's not just, they're not sure if they're going to go into it, which it would be cool, because if I could play Combat Mission on my iPad, it would be epic.